Welcome everyone to the Gavel, where we keep you updated on the weekly activities of the Nigerian Parliament. I'm Terry Ikumi. Plenary resumption has been extended to the 6th of May to allow lawmakers participate in the Workers' Day ceremony and attend to other engagements in their constituencies. That's according to a statement from the clerk to the National Assembly, Mr. Kamoru Ogolana. But besides plenary, let's take a look at other activities of lawmakers this past week. Beginning with a meeting between the House of Representatives Committee, which is saddled with the responsibility of oversight on Rivers State, and the sole administrator of the state, Vice Admiral Ibas, retired. After 2 attempts, the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee, saddled with the oversight responsibility on Rivers State, finally meets with the sole administrator of the state, Vice Admiral Ibas, retired. The meeting begins with a brief remark by the House leader who chairs the committee.
Since our inauguration, we made every effort to reach out to you. Via a letter, you responded that you couldn't come. We did a second letter. We didn't quite receive the response, but I did get a soft copy yesterday, explaining why you couldn't make it. But we were here waiting for you because we had not received the letter. So we were here till very late for you until we heard that you were attending the National Economic Council meeting. So we're happy to see you here today.
I deeply regret
In his response, Vice Admiral Ibas, retired, apologizes for not attending the previous meetings as he's still settling into his new role.
The absence, of course, was not out of disregard, but rather due to the weighty and urgent demands of stabilizing governance in a state under a declared emergency. I humbly request your understanding and the indulgence of this committee to grant me additional time to adequately prepare and present a comprehensive and constructive briefing.
Journalists are then excused and the meeting goes into a closed-door session. About 15 minutes later, the sole administrator emerges from the meeting and leaves without a comment. The committee chairman, however, throws more light on the outcome of the brief engagement.
A new date will be communicated to him today, and he will be here.
Following the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State by President Bola Tinubu and suspension of the governor and state assembly members, the House of Representatives is exercising its constitutional powers to take over the functions of the state assembly as provided in Section 11, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. All right, let's go outside the National Assembly now, all the way to Port Harcourt, Rivers State, for the oversight visit of the House Committee on Customs to customs formations in the zone.
Arriving at the VIP wing of the Port Harcourt Airport, the House Committee on Customs and Excise, led by Honorable Leke Abejide, were in town to perform an oversight function. The inspection commenced right at the international wing of the airport. During the interaction with some airport officials, they requested upgrades and improvements to boost revenue generation.
Since that last seizure in September 2024, there has been no trace of a drug peddling within this area.
So the problem is because of the pressure in on it, you understand? They try to test run this place to see whether they can be accepted or they can use this place to be passing drugs.
The committee chairman further quizzed the customs officials on the menace of drug smuggling and the use of technology.
Service number 47772. Emmanuel.
From the airport, the train moved to the Customs Area 1 Command. Inside the conference room, the main business began. There are 11 states and 9 area commands under Zone C, and all their area controllers are in attendance. In their addresses, the Customs Area Controller and Assistant Comptroller General give the breakdown of their official activities.
The zone in recent times has faced with a lot of security challenges, which has affected our revenue generation. However, the area controllers, unit heads, and men of Nigerian Customs Service are working relentlessly to see that the vision of Nigerian Customs Service is upheld for the overall good of our dear nation. Some of the challenges we faced were the underutilization of seaports in the eastern zone, which has in turn affected importers who bring in cargo and vessels into the eastern and southern region. Other challenges were poor road networking from the seaports into the towns or into the states.
From January to December 2023, we had a target of 128 billion naira, out of which 116 billion was collected. In January, from January to December 2024, we had a target of 184 billion, out of which 200 billion was collected, with an excess of 84 billion, which represents 72% increment. The implementation of the federal government directives of concession on selected food items affected the revenue generated by the command, as over 34 billion was lost from August to December 2024. Not long ago, our dedicated officers and men at the Port Harcourt International Airport intercepted 9 packages of Tafrodol 200 milligram tablets at the NAPCO shed of the airport. The seized items, which were smuggled through the Lufthansa cargo flight from Frankfurt in Germany, had a duty-paid value of 550 million naira. And the illicit drugs and one suspect has since been handed over to the National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. Most recently, the command had a catch of drum and walkie-talkies, which were detained pending the production of end-user certificate EUC. Otherwise, the items will be forfeited to the government. And the strategic effort of the command to fight smuggling activities has sent warning signal to all would-be smugglers and their syndicates that Area 1 Command is not a fertile environment for their nefarious activities.
The Association of Nigerian Licensed Customs Agents were also in attendance.
We go out for ways. I know several times we've been to Onitsha, we are back, convincing them to come to patronize this place. I think this house should do something for us. They should convince the government, even if it's 1%. It will help us to also put more effort. 1% of the revenue generated going to the custom agents will help them to work harder to make sure that these importers comply and they pay.
I believe Nigerian Customs Service cannot make any revenue if the stakeholders are not happy. Whatever trillions you are seeing coming out, like last year you made 6.1 trillion, and everything came through the stakeholders from the licensed customs agents and the fast track. So if your relationship is not cordial, your revenue may have issues.
On day 2 of the visits of the House Committee on Customs and Excise to Rivers State, the Customs Area 2 Command at Onne Port was the point of call. The committee was received by the controller of the command, who reeled out some of the command's achievements during his tenure, even as he makes a case for improved power supply.
Last year, we were given the target of 618 billion. 618 billion was my target. To God be the glory. Due to the commitment by my officers and men, due to dedication, we were able to collect 639 billion, which is the highest. For the last 5 years, we have not achieved that, if not last year. This year, 2025, my target is 701 billion. Monthly target of 58 billion. Mr. Chairman, with all humility, I'm telling you, since the beginning of January, I have been hitting over 60 billion. Last year, the command intercepted 840 844 assaulted rifles, 104,500 ammunition. Thank God the chairman committee on small arms is here, but I did not see him that time. The office of the National Security Advisor that were here, and Mr. Chairman, for 2 days we are counting these arms. 6 men from the 6th Division and 90 soldiers were sent to us to give us cover. It took us 2 days to count this ammunition and arms. According to one Major General, a military or a security expert, he told me, controller in my office, that these arms is enough to stabilize the whole Southeast and South region. Mr. Chairman, I want to tell you the challenge. The major challenge we're having is power. Though we are connected to national grid, but we don't see. We met the officials or the power holders on many occasions, but there is nothing. The customs, the NPA, the MASA, and all these officers you have seen, we are on generator 24/7. We are on generator 24/7. This is one of our major challenges.
The chairman assures them of the commitment of the National Assembly to improving their welfare, especially their salaries.
Challenge you just mentioned, issue of electricity. By the way custom is and by the way you are operating and assisting the federal government of Nigeria in terms of funding, which I'm aware of, in the Ninth Assembly, it is the custom 7% cost of collection that federal government used to pay salaries for some months for federal civil service. And that's why then they pleaded with the Comptroller General of Customs to just give time to hold on the infrastructure. I'm aware. So you have been assisting the government, you have been doing well, so you need to enjoy your labor. So, and that is what this committee stands for. We want you to do better. And that is why when the budget was presented before this committee and your issue of welfare was discussed, we didn't hesitate, the House and the Senate, before giving approval. And we are ready to do more for you. Because if you are not okay, you are not doing very well, you are not being taken care of, you will not be happy to do the job. You can be given targets, but if you are not being motivated, definitely the target will fail. So, and that's why we want your salary to increase. Approval has been given.
The chairman and his team were then taken to see the scanner used to examine containers.
This one now is dry eyes and skin for this one, because scanning, every item in this world, when it comes to scanning, it's divided into two, organic and inorganic. If you notice, the metals here has blue, shades of blue. So any metallic item that we see, we know it is inorganic. Why the organic one, like the clothes we wear, hide and skin, our skin, it will appear to be organic, it will be orange.
The Assistant Controller General appreciated the committee.
I am very happy to receive the team because the chairman knows what is called customs. And what they are doing now is what is supposed to be done. And then I'm happy everywhere they go, they look at our challenges, they write them down, and we pray that at the end of the day, all our challenges will be solved by the grace of God, especially the welfare of our officers and their accommodation and whatever. And with coming to One now, the officers we are seeing on ground, they are really doing the right thing, and by the grace of God, we'll encourage them. In every system, there is reward and punishment. And this work they are doing, once they do a good work, we reward them. When they do the bad work, we punish them accordingly. So that is just what I was saying.
Welcome back to the Gavel. On the breakdown this week, the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center breaks down the constitutional role of the National Assembly, where a state assembly is unable to perform its functions.
recently, the House of Representatives inaugurated a 21-member ad hoc committee on Rivers State. And the tasks of this committee are to monitor the implementation of federal directives and policy in the states, to ensure that the sole administrator that has been appointed for the states is adhering to the law and constitutional provisions, and also to protect public interest, and ensure that as soon as possible things are back to normal. But the question still remains, what is the constitutionality or the legality of the appointment of a sole administrator? And the recent actions of the sole administrator has also, come under scrutiny and criticism. For instance, there are reports that he had suspended political appointees, suspended members of some commissions and the rest of it. And, it further builds into this whole narrative about the unconstitutionality and the anomaly of having a sole administrator govern a state. So, in response, the National Assembly has set up this committee and they have given it a mandate to take over the functions of the State House of Assembly. But the question is, does the National Assembly actually have the right to do this? The National Assembly has cited Section 11, subsection 4 of the Constitution, and I'm going to read it out. It says that at any time when any House of Assembly of the state is unable to perform its functions by reason of the situation prevailing in that state, the National Assembly may make such laws for the peace, order, and good governance of that state with respect to matters on which a House of Assembly may make laws as may appear to the National Assembly to be necessary or expedient until such time as the House of Assembly is able to resume its functions, and any such laws enacted by the National Assembly pursuant to this section shall have effect as if they were laws enacted by the House of Assembly of the state, provided that nothing in this section shall be construed as conferring on the National Assembly the power to remove the governor or the deputy governor of the state from office. So this is the provision of the Constitution the National Assembly is hinging on. And I would say that for as long as the sole administrator is administering the states, spending public funds, it is really important that there is legislative oversight. And right now, there is no State House of Assembly to actually perform that function. So, looking at this provision of the Constitution, literally, the National Assembly is performing its function or doing the right thing. However, there's also the question of why it's just the House alone that is actually setting up this committee, because the provision does not say the House of Reps, it says the National Assembly. So there has been no reports of the Senate setting up a similar committee. So there's also the question, of the propriety of the House acting alone by itself without the Senate working in consonance. But there are still very serious concerns. A lot of observers and lawyers still feel that the whole concept of a sole administrator is an anomaly, and everything that is happening afterwards is a continuation of that anomaly. So whether or not the National Assembly activates its oversight powers still does not address the fundamental question of why a state of emergency was declared the way it was in the first place. And for others, they feel the National Assembly already kind of abdicated its responsibility when it approved the state of emergency by voice votes, without really questioning the whole purpose and coming to a determination of whether that's the right action to take in the circumstance. So for some members of the public, they don't really care either way because the mistake already started at that time. So for them, setting up a committee to oversight what the administrator is doing or take over the function of the State House Assembly really doesn't mean much. And there are also reports that this administrator is preparing to present a budget. So there are still questions. One, does he have the power to present a budget? Because the Constitution does not foresee a sole administrator presenting a budget. And does he have the constitutional rights to actually, implement the budget and the rest of it? So these are all constitutional legal questions that are, kind of quite difficult to answer at this moment.
On Constituency Focus this week, we feature Honorable Adebayo Balogun, representing the Bejuleki Federal Constituency of Lagos State.
We've been able to build at least about four schools, 4 classrooms, blocks of classrooms, hospital, a federal medical center annex has been brought into the federal constituency at Labora Wode. When we talk about schools, we have the Solalade Junior Secondary School, we have the Balogun Sanusi Primary School, we have the Debojo Secondary School, and now we are still working on 1 or 2 that would be completed very soon. And in area of empowerment, because Ibejuleki used to be an agrarian local government until this dispensation when a lot of activities have been brought over, talking about the free trade zone, Lekki deep sea port, Dangote refinery and all the rest. This has actually changed the occupation of the people. And then we need to now train and retrain people in line with the reality on ground. One, people have to ensure that people get into the mainstream of most of these projects, the Dangote refinery and the rest. That means we must start training our children to be engineers, chemical engineers, petroleum engineers, even people into diving because of the deep sea port and all the rest. So we started encouraging our youths to ensure that they not just go to the university, but to take the right courses. And in the process, we're also encouraging, assisting them in provision of JAM forms, bursaries, and all the stuff, financial assistance for the students. And for the artisans, there must be people who must, because we have the largest real estate development too in Ibejuleki because of all this industrialization. So we've been able to do a lot of training for them in this field, working with the NDE, Nigerian Directorate of Employment, because if you work with them, they're able to give them certification, trade tests, and some of these certifications that will be able to make them work in some of these factories at the end of the day. So we'll be able to train at least close to 200-300 during the past few years. And also giving empowerment in terms of materials, deep freezers, fridges, mini buses, outboard engines, and for tailors and fashion designers too, we're giving them sewing machines and all the accessories. And for people in the beauty sector too, hairdressers and barbing, we've also been able to give them their necessary kits. We did about 1,000 people about 2 years ago to ensure that yes, most of our people are ready for the development coming in. Presently, we are working on the farmers because now food has been a major problem, feeding ourselves. Like I said, Ibejuleki has the largest landmass, 646 square kilometers in Lagos. So we told our people, even if you have sold land to people who are doing real estate, most of them have not started developing yet. You can still work with them and farm on the land. Ensure that you're only farming shrubs and vegetables. Don't go into long-term, perennial agriculture like planting of palm trees and all the rest. Just plants, cassava, vegetable. Those are things you can easily harvest when they come. And we just distributed about 500 bags of fertilizer recently. For the fish farmers too, we are going to give them this fish tank so that we want to start with 10 groups. We establish 10 groups. We give you the fish tanks with all the feedings and all the fish. At least we'll monitor them. If you can prove yourself to be to have interest in this, we can start taking some individuals later, but we want to start with 10 groups. So that will be 10 major tanks. I think it's about 4,000 liters a tank. That's what they use for this fish. That will take about 3 3,000 fish each. So we're looking about, that means you have 3,000 into 10, that's about 30,000 fishes.
Well, that's all the time we have on The Gavel. Thanks for your time. I'm Terry Ikumi. Do send feedback to thegavel@channelstv.com. Bye-bye.